Hey folks, welcome to week 9 of GID 109, Intro to Web Design. How's everybody doing? Alright, this is the big week. We are turning in our finished Project 1 prototype in Adobe XD. So let's take a look at the module and see what's due this week, and we're going to go over some very specific things in XD in a minute. So let's take a look at the week 9 module. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this class here is not being taught in teams. It's being done individually, so you don't have to worry about this particular class goal. However, what is important, of course, is that deliverable number 3, which is the final deliverable of Project 1, is due at the end of this week. So be sure to check the due date on that, but it's due at the very end of the week, so you get plenty of time to finish it up. Now, last week we were working on creating our design in Adobe XD, and we went through a couple of video lectures last week about how to use XD and set up your design space and get the basic design down. So now this week we're going to pick up where we left off in Adobe XD, and we're going to move into the prototyping stage. Now, you may have already started this, of course, because you've had lots of time to explore with Adobe XD. There's been some training videos, a bunch of good paraphernalia that'll help you out with it. So if you're ahead of the curve, that's great. Go ahead, keep prototyping. You don't need me for this. But just in case, I wanted to go over some of the basics here in this lecture, just to make sure everybody is on the same page. All right, so hopping back into Adobe XD, if you remember last time around, I was working with this website here, Dave's Delectable Donuts. And so from last time I saw you, I finished up the design of the different screens. Now, of course, what I'm doing here is a little different than the parameters of what is due for Project 1, but that's okay. You get the basic idea. So I have different screens, different pages, all based on the same design, the same layout. So I've got my home page up here. I've got the specials page right here, the page for cake donuts, the page for frosted donuts, the page for filled donuts, and then I have an order page down here. Now you notice that most of the pages correspond with the uppermost navigation over here on the left-hand side, specials, cake, frosted, filled. But then I added a order page because I also added to the various categories of donut pages an order here button, which is over here. So now once I have this all set, the next thing you're going to want to do is organize your artboards. Now mine are organized into 2 columns, 3 rows. And you can use the smart guides to sort of help you organize them. You might have your artboards all over the place. And sometimes when we're designing, we don't worry too much about, the structure of the artboards. But once you've got them done, you should definitely make sure that you have them nice and organized so that you can view them all together on the screen, because when we move over to the prototype tab, it is certainly helpful to be able to see all of them, but not from too far away, right? You don't want to be so far away you can't see the individual elements. So remember, you can always go to View up here in the File menu and do Zoom to Fit All, which is Command or Control 0, and that will show all your artboards at the same time. If you can see them nice and neat like this, then you're in good shape. Otherwise, you might have to do a little rearranging. Okay, the next thing we're going to do before we start prototyping is we're going to go around and sort of make sure that we have access to all the different parts, pieces that we need here, because we want to be able to sort of grab everything as individual items. So if you click something and you see that it's a big group or that it's not grouped, for example, you want to make sure that you can click each individual item like I'm doing here. Right? Everything gets its own bounding box. Now, in some cases, you want things to be grouped, so make sure you group them together in advance, like my logo is all grouped here together. So I can grab that photo, I can get that text box, I can get that, and just sort of go around and do that for everything, and just triple check it. Now, you might have already done this, but of course, it's helpful to make sure that it works. Now, what I did is I created one page after I made my home page, which was the specials page, and I duplicated it a bunch of times and then made changes. So basically, if I know my specials page works, then I know everything else works. So I'm not super worried about that. I do want to group these together. So I'm going to do that down here. Make sure those are grouped together nicely. And of course, the grouping works just like it does in Illustrator. Okay, so now that I'm ready to go, of course, make sure you have all your artboards named. Now I'm going to move over from the Design tab, which is what we've been working on, to the Prototype tab. Now, when we click on the Prototype tab, you might notice nothing really amazing happens. instead, you'll see that a bunch of the tools from the already limited toolbar have disappeared. And now I'm down to just the selection arrow and the magnifying glass. You'll also notice that the palettes over here have also simplified. Now, the main goal with prototyping is that we are going to create threads that are going to replicate the way links work in actual functioning websites. And this prototype will give a full overview of how you want the links to work. When a user clicks on a particular item or piece of text or photograph or whatever you want, it's going to take them somewhere. That's how hyperlinks work. So here we get to prototype that by simply clicking on an object and then pulling a thread from one place to the next. I'll show you how it works. So for example, if I click on the word specials over here, and I'm going to start on my home page, right? It's always a good place to start. If I click the word specials, you'll see that that gets highlighted in a blue color, and it gets a little blue arrow to the right side. And when I pull on that blue arrow with the mouse, it creates that thread I was just talking about. Now the thread is kind of like a wire that I can then link to a destination. The specials text that I just clicked on, that's the origination point, or the place that would be clicked. And now I'm going to land on a destination. Well, this, I know, is going to go to the specials page. So I'm going to simply bring it over to the specials artboard, lean on that, and you'll see that it gets highlighted with a blue outline. So that tells me that I've now activated that, and if I let go of it, I've now created a link from the word specials to the specials page. Okay. Now I have to repeat that, right? Because you want to be able to access the specials page from each individual page, right? So that means I have to grab specials over here on the cake page and drag it to the same page, and then grab specials over here on the frosted page and drag it to the same page, and so on until I have done this throughout the whole site. So that replicates the idea. So now I can get to the specials page from anywhere on the navigation menu on any page where it says specials. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for all of them. Cake, of course, goes to the cake page, and then cake goes to the cake page, and so on and so forth. Now naturally you don't need to drag a thread from the page that you're destined to go to itself. That doesn't make any sense. So you can skip that. Right? So I don't have to do cake to cake, obviously. So go ahead and do those. And then I'm going to go ahead and do frosted, which goes over here to frosted. Now let's say I make a mistake and I've linked to the wrong one. All you've got to do is click on one of those threads, and when it's that brighter blue color as opposed to the gray color, just simply hit the delete key on your keyboard and it goes away. And then I can start over again. So don't worry if you make a mistake. If you drag your thread to the wrong place, it's no big deal. You can continue along and just delete it. It's not that big of a deal. You can always fix your mistakes. All of these are temporary. All right, so I'll grab frosted over here. Okay, and then lastly, filled is going to go to my filled page, which is down here. Filled page down here. Filled goes to this. Filled goes here. And then filled goes here. Okay, that covers it. Now, I'm doing this quickly. I might have missed one. No big deal. Later on, I'm going to test out my links, and if I have missed one, I can go back and fix it, right? Now, if you want to see all the threads you created from each page, just simply click on the title of the page, and you can see all the threads that that page has activated, right? So this is a way of sort of double-checking your work to make sure that you've gone everywhere. See, I forgot to go from the specials page to frosted. See, that told me what I did wrong. Now I'll click on this one. Cake, right? That's all great. And we'll go here and click frosted. That looks pretty good. Your order should be all of them, right? Filled, right? Should go to everybody. Well, I forgot to do cake again. Look at that. Okay, there you go. So you can easily check your work just by clicking on the title of each artboard, and you can see all the threads. Now notice when I click into the gray area, into the scratch space, of course, all the threads disappear, which is good because you don't want to be seeing all of them all at the same time. It would get a little confusing. Now I have to go to my order page. So notice that the order here button appears on some of the pages, right? So you click that, and then same thing, down here to the order page. Click that one. down to the order page, that one over here, that one over here. Okay, so I'm done, right? No, I'm not done. You always have to give your users a way to get back to your home page, right? Now notice that none of my links in my uppermost navigation say home, right? And I don't have a secondary navigation that says home. Well, that's because in the world of user experience design, at this point, the paradigm in web design is that most people understand if you click the logo of something, that will take you back to the home page. So as a designer, you can leverage that knowledge, that universal knowledge, and just sort of go with it, right? So now I don't have to do it here because this is the home page. So if I'm going to do it here, I can grab that. And because I grouped together all of the items that make up my logo, right? Remember I did that over in Illustrator and then I dragged it over here. Now I can just drag from the entire group back to the home page. And then just make sure you do that for every subsequent page so that you have the full experience going on here. Now, you can make threads all day long, right? You can connect things all over the place. And it can get pretty complicated. That's why I love the feature in XD that you only see all the threads when you're on a given page, right? I mean, that's a lot of threads just going from the frosted page, right? That's a lot of stuff going on. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why didn't I put an Order Here button on the home page? Well, because the home page is just an introductory page that has information about the company and then introduces you to the uppermost navigation. So I haven't had a chance to browse any of the donuts yet, so why would I place an order, right? So over here, now I can browse through the different donuts and then place my order and go from place to place. So we'll take it from there. Now here we are over on the order page, right? And I've got contact, shipping, and payment. Now all I'm doing right now is showing you object-to-page links, right? But you can also do object-to-object links where you are changing the look of something by simply clicking on it, and you can create a duplicate of your page. But that's a little more advanced, and we're not going to do that right now. But that's something you can experiment with later on. Okay, so we've made some basic links, and we're good to go here. Let's test them out and see how this works, right? So once you're done making your threads, all you got to do is go over here to the upper right corner, and you'll see a play button. Click on where you want to start. So starting on the home page makes perfect sense. So we'll start at the home page. And we'll hit the play button. And this is going to pop up a sort of fake browser, which is going to give us a free floating window here, which is like a fake web browser, which is going to give me a chance to test out all my links. Notice that just like on a website, when you hover over the link, your cursor goes from being a black arrow to a hand, and so that tells you the link is active. So that tells me I did a pretty good job. If you want, you can record up here by hitting the record button, and there's some things you can set here with the recording. You can turn on your microphone so if you want to talk over it. This will give you a chance to record the interaction so you can show it to people. This comes in handy in a client situation if you wanted to walk your client through it, or if you want to talk your teacher through it even. Just say, hey, this is the way I designed it. Let me show you how it works. So let's see. We're going to go here and click Specials. Goes right to my Specials page. Very nice. Click Cake. Goes right to my Cake page. Very nice. Frosted. Very nice. Filled. Very nice. Excellent. Now let's go to my Order page. Ah, that works great. Nice. Now let's go back home. Nice. Now you'll notice that each time I changed... oh, wait a minute. Oh, there we go. Now I'm back home. I clicked on the wrong one. Notice that every time I clicked and it went from page to page, it just kind of fades from page to page. Now you can change that. You don't have to use that technique. You can have things change a different way if you would like. Now for a website like this makes sense, but let's X out of this. And I just want to show you that once you choose a thread, so we'll turn on the home page again. Now I can click on a thread. So I'm going to click here on the thread that goes from the home button, or the home logo rather, back to the home page. And when it's active, when it's blue, when it's that bright blue, notice over here the interaction palette becomes alive. That gives you the option to make some changes. Now by default, tapping or clicking on it works, right? And that's what would instigate the link. But there's some other options. Let's say we weren't designing a web page, a desktop page. Let's say we were designing an app. Well, maybe somebody wants to drag their finger to make it do something, right? Maybe you want to interact using the keyboard if you're doing something either for a game or for people with disabilities and they want to access it through a keyboard only. What if you want to make it voice activated? So again, that people can use their voice interaction tools as opposed to other ways of interacting. So you can change those, and that would work on a mobile device, that would work on an app, anything like that. Then the next step, once you've decided on your interaction, your next step is to create the action. How does it happen? What happens next? So we are transitioning from our first place to our second destination. Are we creating an overlay? Are we scrolling to it? Are we going to the previous artboard? Are we playing audio, etc., etc.? So there's lots of options depending on what your elements are that you have here. It tells you the destination. Now the destination, of course, I've already established by dragging out the thread, but if you don't like it, you can change it here, and you can just pick a different page this way so that I don't have to go ahead and reset the thread. Next, of course, is the animation. Now, if you're familiar with PowerPoint, for example, you'll understand what this is all about, right? This is basically what does it look like when it goes from page to page or from element to element. So you'll notice when we were testing it out, it did dissolve. Well, what if we go back home? We don't want dissolve. What if we want it to slide up from the bottom, right? And then there's some adjustments below that. How does it slide and how long does it take to slide? Okay, let's test that out, okay? So once we've done that, now I can go back to the home page and I'm going to jump over to specials and see how that works. So again, specials, okay, that transitioned nicely, but let's go back home. Oh, look, it slides up from the bottom now. That's kind of fun, see? Specials, slides up from the bottom. Now, for a desktop website, you're probably not going to engage that type of animation, but imagine you're designing this for a mobile device or for an app, for a mobile app. Those types of interactions, those types of animations would make sense. You could do those sorts of things. So anyway, you can play around with the settings once you have your threads established. I always tell people, establish the threads first, then worry about how the interactions are going to happen. Once you get the threads in place, you can go back and click each one, turn them blue, and go ahead and establish different ones all the way across, okay? Also notice that under interaction that you can add an additional interaction if you want. So you can have it do a few different things when you click on it. It doesn't have to do just one thing, okay? It can't have the same trigger, but you can have it do multiple things. So that is also a possibility as well. But if you don't want it, again, just simply click it and you don't have to worry about it. All right, so there you go. That is the basics of prototyping. Of course, make sure you're saving your work as you go along and testing it out. Now, when you guys are done with your prototyping, you're going to turn in your Adobe XD file through our learning management system here, and then I'll be able to go in and test it out using the play button. Now, there's one more thing you can do when you are all done here, and I'll show you how to do that later. But for now, go ahead and do your prototyping, and then next time around, I'm going to show you how to do sharing, okay? All right, get to work. Have a good day. You're going to do a great job.